Marley drummed his fingers on the handlebars of his pristine Honda CBR 300R, the late afternoon sun glinting off its cherry red finish. The empty parking lot at Kodak Quarry stretched before him like a concrete desert, devoid of the usual rumble of motorcycles he'd expected for the Knox Night Riders meetup. 2 hours early, he muttered, checking his phone for the 15th time. Perfect. Only a week into motorcycle ownership, and he'd already mastered the art of excessive enthusiasm. At least the scenery wasn't bad. The French Broad River meandered lazily below the quarry, its waters catching the golden light like scattered coins. Deciding to make the most of his timing mishap, Marley wheeled his bike toward the riverbank. The spot was a photographer's dream, with weathered rocks framing the water and just enough elevation to capture his CBR 300R in all its glory. He positioned his phone carefully on a flat stone, setting the timer for what he hoped would be an Instagram-worthy shot. That's when things went sideways, literally. His pristine Icon Airflight helmet, perched precariously on the seat for artistic effect, caught a sudden breeze and rolled. Marley lunged for it, fingers grazing the edge sheesh as it tumbled down the embankment and splashed into the river's shallow edge. "Well, that's inconvenient," he said to absolutely no one, watching his helmet bob gently in the current. The water looked shallow enough, maybe 3 feet deep where the helmet had landed. He glanced around the deserted riverbank, weighing his options. The logical choice would be to find a long stick or wait for help. But Marley had never been particularly fond of logical choices. "Knox Night Riders group chat's gonna love this," he mused, already composing the story in his head as he stripped down to his boxers. The water felt refreshingly cool as he waded in, his expensive riding boots safely stored on dry land. Just as he reached the helmet, a voice called out from behind him. "The fish aren't biting today, dear, though I suppose you're using rather unconventional bait." Marley turned to find an elderly woman perched on a nearby bench, binoculars hanging around her neck, and an expression of mild amusement on her face. She seemed more interested in making notes in her birdwatching journal than in his impromptu swimming expedition. "Would you believe I'm actually helmet fishing?" Marley called back, holding up his dripping prize. "It's a very exclusive sport." Yee, she nodded sagely. "I'm Ms. Eleanor. I've been watching birds here for 15 years, but you're the first helmet fisherman I've encountered." "I'm something of a pioneer," Marley replied, wading back to shore with as much dignity as one can muster while wearing soaking wet boxers. "Though I'm thinking of retiring. The helmet fishing season is remarkably short." Ms. Eleanor offered him her floral print handkerchief with a twinkle in her eye. "For your helmet, dear, I'd offer you one for yourself, but I'm afraid it wouldn't cover much." By the time Marley had dressed and shared the story in the Knox Night Riders chat, complete with a selfie of him and Ms. Eleanor, who insisted on throwing up peace signs, his phone was buzzing constantly. Nicki Minaj, the group's social media queen, had already turned the incident into a series of memes. "Y'all, our newest member just invented a whole new sport, #helmet fishing, #Knox Night Riders," her first post read, followed by a masterful Photoshop of Marley's head on various Olympic swimmers' bodies. When Marley finally arrived at the actual meetup 2 hours later, he was greeted with a round of applause and no fewer than 3 offers to go helmet fishing next weekend. Nicki Minaj had already ordered custom t-shirts with "Official Helmet Fishing Team" printed across the back. "You know," she said, showing him the design on her phone, "most people take months to become a club legend. You managed it in your first week. In your underwear, no less." "What can I say?" Marley shrugged, adjusting his now dry helmet. "Some people were born to ride. I was born to turn accidental skinny dipping into a new extreme sport." Ms. Eleanor still sits on her bench by the river most afternoons, and she's added a new section to her birdwatching journal titled "Unusual Wildlife Sightings: The Helmet Fisherman." Sometimes, when the Knox Night Riders cruise past her spot, they honk and wave. She always waves back, keeping one eye on the river just in case another helmet needs catching.